Redesigned for the 2020 model year, the Toyota Highlander boasts high-end technologies, even among base models, and impressive cabin materials on higher trim levels. But space for people or luggage is not its forte. That's a historical weakness for the Highlander, and one that's improved only modestly in this fourth-generation overhaul. Without the prior generation's base four-cylinder engine, the Highlander gets a standard carryover V6. Saddled with a little less curb weight than before, the V6 moves the SUV with sufficient, smooth revving power. Stay hard on the gas and the Highlander feels legitimately quick at higher revs. Unfortunately, the transmission gets indecisive when you need more power while in motion. It's a long-standing problem for Toyota's 8-speed automatic. Try to pass slower traffic, and multi-gear downshifts result in some gear hunting as the 8-speed picks one gear, then another, rather than doing it all at once. It all still happens quick enough, but it could stand to be more seamless. We found less fault with the Highlander's impressive EPA fuel economy, and that's for the non-hybrid. You can read our thoughts on the hybrid, which Toyota also redesigned, in our overall Highlander review on Cars.com. Ride quality in this test car, a non-hybrid Highlander Platinum, is fine. Shock absorption is generous, even with our test car's big 20-inch wheels. Wind and road noise at highway speeds are impressively low, and there's very little bounciness or side-to-side movement over uneven pavement. Still, the SUV can ride a touch busy at higher speeds over all but the smoothest roads. We'd prefer better isolation, something you get from competitors like the Volkswagen Atlas. The Highlander steers with a light touch, and evasive maneuvers and hard corners reveal a reasonably direct, connected steering feel. But such maneuvers also uncover some body roll and modest grip from the skinny Bridgestone tires. Higher trim levels have a fancier torque vectoring system for their all-wheel drive system, but in our experience, that didn't alter much in terms of reflexes. The cabin improves on the prior generation Highlander, which was already one of the nicer interiors in its class. With padded touchpoints, lots of stitched surfaces, and still plenty of driver-accessible storage space. Our loaded Highlander Platinum still isn't as opulent as top trim levels of the Hyundai Palisade or Mazda CX-9, both of which could masquerade as genuine luxury vehicles. Certain Toyota controls, like the gear selector, feel cheaply constructed, and some low-budget plastics peek out amid the nice stuff. But on the whole, this is among the nicer interiors in a class of SUVs where cost-cutting is often the norm. Standard equipment includes an 8-inch touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, while top trim levels have the 12.3-inch you see here. Sadly, smartphone integration and the navigation map display only over about 2/3 of the screen, while the remainder shows one of several status menus. We'd rather have full-screen phone integration or navigation, and this is a recurring problem we've seen with supersized displays. Some cars, including one from Toyota's Lexus division, can make it work, so it's confounding the Highlander does not. Equally confounding is the SUV's relatively modest space. This was a problem with the prior generation. The redesign added roughly 2.5 inches of length, but it remains one of the smaller SUVs in the class, and that shows up inside. The front seats have limited space between the doors and center console, and the passenger seat lacks any height adjustment. Second row space is fine thanks to a slightly higher seating position than before, but the third row has scant headroom and a bench that's slammed to the floor. For anyone to really fit back there, you'll have to scoot the second row seats quite a bit forward, and the compromise is unlikely to leave either row of passengers all that happy. Get into a competitor like the Volkswagen Atlas or Chevy Traverse, and you'll see it doesn't have to be this way. Several competitors offer one-touch buttons for third-row access, which is a big help when you have passengers who have to climb back there. Toyota sticks with an old-school shoulder lever, and the resulting pathway when you scoot the seat forward is modest. but it's really the only form of access, as the aisle between the captain's chairs is really too narrow to use. Again, it doesn't have to be this way. Some rivals have usable aisles between their captain's chairs. The Highlander, not so much. Now, there's a lot of inconsistent methodology out there between manufacturers' stated cargo specs, so we measured space up to the tops of the seat backs using the same methodology as we do in Cars.com's multi-vehicle comparison tests. As such, the Highlander has limited cargo space, hampered especially by a high cargo floor leading up to the second row seat backs. That means you might have to fold those chairs more often to accommodate larger cargo, and Toyota does no favors in this regard. The Highlander's second row captain's chairs require as many as 3 steps to fold down, and the cargo area has no controls to release any row of seats remotely. There's still plenty to like about the redesigned Highlander. It boasts high quality and a bevy of new technologies, with must-have driver assist technology like adaptive cruise control and lane centering steering all the way down to a stop, both as standard equipment even in base trim levels. Pricing starts in the mid-$30,000 range, which is relatively steep for this crowd, but the Highlander also has a ton of standard equipment. That should get plenty of shoppers interested, but just as many might find the limited space, both for people and their stuff, off-putting.